And good. Sometimes I don't read things, and that's the way life is. Wait, this is what I want to start with. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another live stream and another week of episodes from Public Access America. My name is Jason. We're just waiting for Jeffrey. Hey, if you want to create a podcast and build your audience while earning incentives, RedCircle might be the way to do that. You can also find Public Access America there, where we have a stream of episodes that's endless. We are reaching our 700th episode. We're about 5-6 episodes away from it. So that's kind of exciting to me. I love this chance to do a little house cleaning. Hey, there's an episode of Inspirations Beyond Disabilities coming out this Sunday at midnight. Check that out. Kai, Jay, and Shai join us to do just a music episode. And it's a lot about it, a lot about how they discovered it, instruments, production. It's a great one. And here's Jeffrey. So we're just going to let him in and say hi to Jeffrey. He's had a tough week, so bear with him. He is an amazing guy, but the stresses of the week can get to all of us. So let's be patient with Jeffrey and say hi.
Be patient with me. Man, nobody's ever done that.
I was just saying you had a tough week. You know, the stressors of the week can get to anybody, especially, I mean, by and large, leaving the world behind, just trying to survive in the world can be a stressor. It's been a stressful week. So, hi, Jeffrey.
Oh, yeah. You know, it was a stressful week, but, you know, I will caveat that, you know, the stress of the week that I had to go through, I would say is necessary in making sure that the job that I do keeps people's assets safe. And so
I love that. The right people. That's what matters. The
right
people that are important.
Yep.
Not exactly as a podcast note, but like maybe an edit. I have a link ready to share with Devi. So I wasn't ready to get to that story till maybe the second hour. I just wanted to confirm so they weren't sitting around going, when did you want me to come on? You know what I mean? So it's there.
Yeah.
And if they don't want to, I understand that too. Sunday mornings are spontaneous when you have kids.
Well, I'll so sounds like you'll be hour number 2.
If that's okay.
At 10, if that's okay, or do you want to jump on now?
We can do
10
that.
Is fine.
We can do that first.
All right, 10 is fine. Debbie will get some coffee onboarded and
okay.
It's like,
I mean, as a tease to the live stream audience, I wanted to talk about Simone Biles and the gymnasts that and their testimony. And I was doing research on it, and I came to the conclusion that children would be safe if they had loving parents. And then I was like, oh, but they don't all have loving parents. Your parents. So it's an angle that I just wanted to get. But there is so much going on, Jeffrey, and I wanted to start with, of course, the obvious one and get it out of the way, but I wanted to bring a new perspective to it. I didn't watch it. I forgot about it until this morning when I saw it posted up as a news story. Dozens of demonstrators attended the DC rally. And it makes me wonder, Jeffrey, is being a Trump fan political, or is it an identity? You know what I mean?
I would argue that it's become identity politics, you know, and it's funny because it's the same group of people who have railed against identity politics that have now embraced identity politics.
It's weird, right?
I guess it's life imitating bad art or something. I don't know. It's like when you fantasize about being a sci-fi B movie and then you do a worse job of that. It's like so bad that you don't even end up on MST3K.
Exactly. So, I think it's a way to get dates on Tinder and POF. You know what I mean? Just I'm an anti-vaxxer, and then everybody knows they just want to be. They're just trying to impress chicks. I thought about it. Statistics say that 20 million Americans believe Joe Biden is illegitimate and that they should take up arms to put Donald Trump back in power. But out of that 20 million, I'm guessing 98.9% of those are just trying to impress women and don't intend on doing anything.
Yeah, I mean, you see that. I think that's what you see with these rallies. I mean, we had one of those rallies here in Olympia,
I did
and
hear about that. Yeah.
yeah, it attracted all of about 20 people.
Yep.
So, look, it's identity politics, and it's just right-wing identity politics. I mean, there was even a study released. It wasn't a very big study, so I don't, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know how I feel about it.
Mm,
But about 60% of people that were polled as Republicans said that part of being a Republican is believing that Donald Trump lost a rigged election. And I'm like, that's a Republican platform now?
right. Yeah, of course. But
And
see,
then,
here's the
and then,
thing. It's a
yeah.
platform, to actually create subterfuge so that you can destroy the elections as people are reporting on it. But people are behind the curve on how destroyed it will be for the process in 2022 and 2024, you know?
I mean, you just have to look at like how well that played out in the California recall of Larry Elder. I mean,
Oh my
or
God.
of
Yeah.
Gavin Newsom and Larry Elder's responses. It was like, if I don't win, it's a rigged election. It's like, listen,
Yeah.
the only other place that we've seen this outside of the Republican Party are authoritarian dictators like Lukashenko and Putin and the Chinese Communist Party and North Korea and
Hmm.
any other dictatorships around the world. It's not that there's any actual fraud per se that is of any consequence. It's
Right.
just that all you have to do is yell fraud and it plants the seed of doubt inside of your hardcore supporters. And if that's what the platform is going to be, is that I lost so it was rigged. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm going to say it right now, our experiment in democracy is over.
Well, the truth is if you're saying it to that 20 million people, then you're getting 20 million people to believe it that would have voted for you. You're not getting Democrats to believe it. And in fact, you're just consolidating Democrats and independents and fiscal Republicans to be like, you're batshit crazy. You know what I
Look,
mean?
I mean, to me, there are plenty of reasons to believe that the elections are rigged. It just doesn't hinge around keeping one man in power. Reasons to think the elections are rigged. Number one, we've got like, five parties in this country that, seem to poll decently.
Right.
But when it comes to voting time, only two of them ever actually get the votes. And that's not because it's anything to do with, vote switching or anything like that. It's that the next part of the fraud is that only billionaires, millionaires and billionaires are able to run for election. And
That's right.
so you have this elitist class of people who are the only people who can afford to be elected
Hmm.
because they're going to be the people that already have skin in the game for some of these other companies, and they're going to be the ones that are getting these massive donations.
Right.
And that just doesn't exist within the libertarian or the green or the centrist parties or any other smaller
Mm-mm.
party, you
Right.
know and and so you have this issue of we get the illusion of choice, which is Republican or Democrat, and it's tired. You know,
Yeah.
they're self-serving. The funniest thing that I've seen is I've seen, the liberals called socialists, and I've seen the Republicans called yeehaw socialists. It's
Right.
not that the Republicans are spending any less money or giving a shit anymore about the debt limit than, the Democrats do. It's that they just want to spend on their own priorities, which usually involve, anything from military and that realm,
Yeah.
whereas the left seems to want to vote more on human centric policies like
Right.
healthcare and education. So it's like, if you ain't doing anything different, it would be one thing if the Republicans were coming in and saying, yeah, we're slashing all of our expenditures 10% across the board.
Right.
I could at least be like, okay, well, they're trying to pretend conservancy, but they're not even doing that. Like they flat out suspended the debt limit, and then they just proceeded to spend even more. So it's like, you can't even sit down and call yourself conservative unless you just literally change the definition of conservative to I read the Bible and have interpreted it in an ass backwards way.
Right. It's a Politics is a multi-level marketing scheme in which
Mm,
to run for Democrat or Republican, you need to have donations that flow up to the top. And that's how they stay in business is by recruiting new people into the multi-level marketing scheme to push dollars up. And so in the end, and the average person can't legitimately run
I
unless
like
they,
the idea of I like the idea of American politics being an MLM.
right?
It's you just suddenly get your fucking crazy friend from high school. It's like, hey, it's been so long since we've talked to each other. How's it going? Oh, it's doing great. Hey, so I got this thing out I want to sell you, and I believe in this product,
Yeah.
this product, and it's called American conservatism. It's like, oh, fuck you, block. God damn it. Another fucking
you should run for office and put an R next to your name. Yeah.
oh Christ, it's so bad. And then when it gets down to like the meat and potatoes of it, I don't know if you've followed anything out of Maricopa County with that, the election audit and all of that.
Oh my
You know,
gosh, yeah. It's the definition of ludicrous. Yeah.
I mean, it's so bad, like, the previous guy, Adrian Fontes, he goes in and I mean, does a bang up job getting people to vote. Like, his platform was that, voting is not a Republican thing or a Democratic thing, it's
That's
an
right.
American. Making sure that people who can vote have access to the polls is important. And I don't disagree with that whatsoever. And when his predecessor and when his now successor, won, Adrian gracefully took him through everything, showed him everything. And, 9 months later, the dude is literally writing a letter like saying, okay, guys, seriously, it's over. Like, there has been nothing found. This is absolutely insane. There's
Right.
nothing in the policies, procedures. There's no vote switching. There's no this, that, or the other. You guys are literally just fucking around and costing your voters because now, if you saw this, voter database got leaked online this week.
Yep. Yeah. The voting machine schematics got leaked online.
And
And
so,
that's my
yeah,
point. They're screaming voter fraud, but that's not the intent. The intent is to destroy the infrastructure while they're doing it so that when 2022 runs around, Maricopa County has less voting machines. They're just eliminating the stockpile. It's they're 2 steps ahead of that's not voter fraud. They just have to claim
mhm.
voter fraud long enough until it leaks into next year's elections. And
and
that's
that's
their
the
intent.
and that's the funny thing about it is that you got a bunch of people screaming, well, how can we verify you? Yet they don't want to send ballots out to people who have a verified identity within a DMV database. That's the funny
Right.
part in all of this. It's not that these systems aren't interconnected in some way, shape, or form. They're very interconnected.
Right.
But they sit there and they scream fraud without understanding any of the systems that are in place, simply because one guy said, if I don't win, it's fraud. And so I
Right.
had a very long conversation with my dad about this last night and told him the exact same thing I told you. I said, look, Trump lost the election. There's been no outside influence whatsoever. We can
Right.
talk about the fraud that is American democracy. Yes, that, this idea that we only get two choices,
Hmm.
but the idea that, there was any sort of vote switching, I mean, like Maricopa County, it's not, the idea that, Fontes went through and made sure that Trump was going to lose, but then lost his own election is fucking idiotic.
Yeah. Um, Donald Trump thinks it's easier to win the last election than the next election. And that's the truth. He sees no future for himself, so he's trying to backpedal,
Yeah.
you know? And yeah, up and down the ballot, Republicans won, right? And they're delegitimizing their own wins by saying there was fraud. So I don't and they're
Right.
doing it in Pennsylvania, they're doing it in Wisconsin. The goal is just, I mean, how long do you think it takes to get new voting machines, right? Or to get a budget to replace the money that was wasted in all these audits? And then where is that money going to be taken from? And when you start to see the future of where it's headed, like if you watch the timeline, you realize that when they're done, the voting infrastructure is going to be broken beyond repair. And then
Hmm.
boom, there's an election a month later. And that's the issue. I don't
Hmm.
care if they scream fraud, leave them away from the infrastructure, like
Right.
they just gave Russians the plans to our voting machines. This is ridiculous. They put it online. Hackers actually said this is a test. We can test with this and learn its vulnerabilities. That's the goal. The goal is not voter fraud. It's not voter fraud. It's that. It's
Well,
the
and
subversion of our infrastructure.
they believed so thoroughly that China had gone in and switched votes that they actually released the machine so that way any nation state actor or
Right.
non-nation state actor, because we got plenty of
Hmm.
Russian criminals that would be more than happy to influence an election for pay one way or the other. They don't give a shit.
But I don't think they believe China did it. I think they're yelling that China did it. I think they believe that China will if they can leak this stuff and make it so muddy. I don't think they believe there was election fraud, but I think they
I don't
believe
think
in the cause of destroying the
Oh yeah,
voting
yeah, yeah. They
process.
absolutely do. And to caveat this, I don't think China would do shit
I don't think so, no.
unless somehow we started having like a major communist party movement in the United States. And
Exactly.
for all of you that listen out there and you listen to Republicans scream about, American socialism being communism,
Hmm.
like if I were to try and compare the two, it's not even fucking close. Like
You can't. You can't. It's
it's
a beta and a VHS. It's
no,
tape
it's
deck
it's
and
literally a
live
Blu-ray.
stream.
It's literally a Blu-ray and a Betamax is what it is.
Right. Yeah.
It's not even fucking close. Okay, sure, it plays video.
Hmm. So I mean, yeah, I mean that's just, and I don't even think Donald Trump says it. I think he repeats everything. I don't think
Oh,
he's coming
he's
up
a
with these
total parrot.
ideas. Yeah,
Oh, he,
exactly. I think somebody told him voter fraud and he was like, "Oh, I like this." And he just keeps parroting it until somebody says voter fraud here and then he's like he called Georgia's Secretary of State to say, "Hey, there's 46,000 votes that they were out of the chain of custody." By the way, this was debunked years ago, but delegitimize Biden. He's still working on this today.
the fact that he's just like, I just need one more vote. And it's like,
Right.
find me
11.
one. I just need one more vote. And it's like,
Yeah.
really? Like,
Right.
and yet damn good and well that had the Democrats done that under Hillary and been like, we just need one more vote, that
Right.
this would have been, it would have been treason, it would have been everything under the sun, they would have thrown every possible book at it, but when it's their guy, it's fucking cool.
Right. It's a loyalty test. He's just saying,
Absolutely.
how can I get you to start being loyal to me? Just turn one vote for me. Just one. And that, it's not work. And he's doing that while he's under investigation under RICO charges in Georgia, and he's calling the Secretary of State to say, "Hey, let's crime some more."
And the Secretary of State didn't even like him then.
Right. So
So,
I just think it's ridiculous. You know what I mean?
oh, it's absolutely insane. And 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 if identity politics for the right is going to be believing that Donald Trump lost the election and that's going to be your platform,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, guess what? That's less than what the Democrats fucking run on any given day, which is, hey, we're not the Republicans.
Right. But they are. I mean, they're not,
They're not,
but they
and they
are. I
are,
mean, yeah.
and
Uh,
publican.
I just there's a lot of hand wringing on both sides, and I think both give each other cover to do what they're doing. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
the fear tactics to get people to fall in line are spectacular.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I was watching something MSNBC documentary. No, it wasn't an MSNBC documentary. It was a Vice documentary about media. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
the dot com bang boom and all that stuff, and how Rupert Murdoch was invested in MSNBC and Fox News, and it's like they're just trying to push you to one side because that's where the money squeezes out of. But that's why it's important that we're talking about human stuff. Like, I don't know. It's costing you money to be a Trump fan so you can put anti-vaxxer on your stuff when you don't have to do that. You know what I mean?
At
So
a minimum, it's costing you money. At most, it's going to cost you,
your life,
one last trip out of the fucking emergency room, but you're going to be covered up and on your way to a fucking cold truck.
right? And why are Republicans suddenly screaming for monoclonal antibodies instead of the vaccine? It's like their little technicality. Like, we want to save people, but we don't want to be for the vaccine, you know?
Which
I
is
asked the
hilarious given that their president is the one that fucking cut all the red tape in order to make the vaccine happen.
that I told somebody that at the grocery store. The guy was like, "Are you vaccinated?" And I was like, "If it was good enough for Donald Trump, it was good enough for me." And I hightailed it out of there. You know what I mean?
Right? You know, this is insane.
Yeah.
It's like, so I don't know what to tell people. It's like, look, y'all sat there and talked about how the red tape was killing people, so you cut the red tape, and now you're all about killing people because you cut the red. What?
Right. But
What the fuck?
it's the same thing it was 3 months ago when we said it then. You're suppressing your vote, you're killing your vote, and you're ignoring your vote all at the same time. And it's your vote. What Republicans are doing, I just noticed this. What they're doing is affecting their voters. Democrats, they don't care. They're not listening to Fox News. A
No.
lot of independents and Democrats don't listen to either one, and they don't really know what's going on. You know what I mean? But the hardcore Democrats aren't going, "Oh, okay, maybe we shouldn't vote." They're going, "We got to vote more." And I don't see this as a viable strategy for Republicans. You know what I mean? Just to be racist and deny some black people votes, you're willing to tank your own vote? It doesn't make sense to me.
Which is interesting, given that they sat down and ran on this idea that their party encompasses every race, yet
Mhm.
they've played to the fear tactics of being afraid of those races.
Right. It's so weird to me. And it's just,
Like
I
the idea,
mean,
the funny thing is that, even with the immigration issues, they think that the people that are going to be coming across the border are somehow Democrats.
right. And willing and ready to vote. You know what I mean? I've been alive 50 years and I'm still not quite ready to vote. You know what I mean?
But the idea that, and that's the crazy part, is the idea that people that are have grown up in very Catholic Mexican culture would be any
Mhm.
sort of liberal is really interesting to me.
Right. That's true. What's weird to me is that uh I lost it. It's all just so weird to me. You know, voter apathy was there when this wasn't a big deal, when we weren't
Hmm.
talking about all this stuff. But suddenly there is no more voter apathy. You're either legitimately not voting or you're legitimately voting. Nobody's going to be
Hmm.
turned. They're all where they're going to be. But if you just, when we didn't pay attention to politics, there was so much voter apathy. Republicans won just off of that, you
Hmm.
know?
That's exactly what happened in 2016, voter apathy.
Right.
It was like they saw that the Democratic Party didn't give a shit and that Hillary was going to be their candidate and not Bernie. And
Hmm.
so they're like, well, cool, you sat there and told me that my vote mattered, and then you showed me that my vote didn't matter, so what the fuck's
Right.
the point in voting?
That's right. And that's where I am. That's where I've been, is my vote doesn't matter. I'm priced out of all the process, you know? So,
Hmm.
and I think it's so weird on a side note that um Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders are endorsing politicians in Canada, you know, trying to sway the vote a little in Canada. I was like, oh my gosh, you know, like even it's like Donald Trump saying one vote, you know, it's kind of like going, we're going to test the waters on interfering with you.
Yeah, right. Or my idea would be that, if I were Canadian and I saw that American politicians were trying to
Right.
say that, hey, I should vote for this candidate, I'd be like, no, I see how shit's going down there. I'm voting
Right.
for the other guy.
Exactly. And Hillary Clinton was a policy wonk, you know, she wouldn't have like destroyed the world.
Right.
Whatever. Whatever. She was talking about no borders when it came to economic policy. She wasn't talking about our southern border. So it's just, hey, Jeffrey, I'm
Yeah.
interested in your thought in this. What's sodium ion batteries and why is China making them?
Sodium ion batteries. Oh, okay. So, you know what sodium is, correct?
I do.
All right. For those who might not necessarily be on the up and up, sodium is an earth metal, very commonly found in salt, which your common table salt is NaCl. Sodium is probably one of the most prolific elements out there. You want to know where you can find the most of it? The ocean,
The ocean,
salt
which
water.
brings us to desalination, which separates the two. But anyway,
Anyways, so now to move into chemistry, because this is always fun.
Woohoo.
Sodium ion, a sodium ion. So basically, you have what's known as the stable version of an element.
Right.
And that's where it's not, each element likes to bond with things, with other elements, and they bond in different ways. Like sodium, which is a +1, it has an additional electron that floats around the outside,
Neat.
likes to bond with chlorine, NaCl. That's your formula for table salt, sodium chloride.
Mm.
But neither are in a perfectly stable system. So Na, sodium, has an electron floating around the outside, one extra electron outside of its shell, its stable shell. Chlorine is down an electron, meaning that it's almost to its next level, but it's not quite stable.
Okay.
So when elements bond, what happens is you get what's called electron sharing. So that extra electron that's in sodium will help stabilize chlorine.
It
And
fits the
when it
slot to
bonds,
the, yeah.
so it's basically you take your +1, you take your -1, it now evens
Boom.
out, and now you have a solid bond.
That's so cool.
So that's chemistry 101. Now, every element has what they call ions. That means that not everything in nature is just, sodium always has a +1 electron. Sometimes they have more electrons, sometimes they have more protons.
Wow.
Now, the question is what do you do with those particular elements? A lot of the times they become, because they'll have less electrons or more electrons, depending on where they sit in the periodic table, they are more unstable. So, for example, if I were to think about this logically speaking, a sodium ion, so sodium already has a +1, right?
Right.
It wants to get stable, so if it gave up that electron, it would be in an even more stable format. But if you want to create power, you need more electrons to flow. So you would need sodium to be a +2, for example, have
Wow.
2 extra electrons. Now, there's a lot of ways that you can do this, and I'm not going to go into that because that's not really important in this scenario. Learn your chemistry, kids. It's fun, it's interesting, and there's a lot of jobs out there that involve being chemists and research.
Yeah.
But so with sodium, if you have a +2 sodium ion, what that does is that gets you an extra electron, because sodium exists in a +1 state, stable.
Mhm.
It's stable that way. But that extra electron would then flow somewhere else. And what do we know about powering electricity? You need electrons to flow.
Right.
So sodium ion batteries are essentially what it sounds like. You have sodium that exists in a plus state of electrons, and that those electrons have more ability to flow and release power.
Right. In a battery, you keep the positives and negatives separate with a metal plate in between. And then when the electricity goes through, it causes the atoms to hit that plate. And that's what ignites. And slowly those materials decay. And that's why it needs to be replaced every so often. So
Yep.
so this is just a more stable battery than the batteries we use.
I wouldn't necessarily say that it's more stable. I would say that it's there's just not a lot of research out there yet on
Right.
sodium batteries,
Okay.
sodium ion
Yeah, they
batteries.
just started doing it. They've gone past. They say
I
it's
would
the cheapest, most effective way. And I'm
I
like,
would
oh, so let's believe China. You know what I mean?
and I could make the argument that sodium ion batteries would be the cheapest because there is a prevalent of salt that's readily available.
Okay.
So if you needed salt, guess what? You could desalinate ocean water, like we've talked about. You get
Yeah.
quality drinking water or agricultural water.
Mm-hmm.
Then you take that salt and then you can break it down into 2 useful products, sodium and chlorine. Chlorine has many uses in terms of, being able to be a cleaning product. You use it in your
Sure.
pools.
You can just
But
go and add it to something else and make a whole new product. You know what I mean?
and then you have your sodium that you would then be able to turn into sodium batteries.
And
I
these
mean,
batteries, if they explode, it's just salt water.
mhm,
Okay. I like this.
yep. So, and the thing about any type of sodium buildup is that if if you end up having it concentrated in a specific area, like, we've probably all seen it. I mean, you were out in the Midwest. You've
Hmm.
seen those, you've seen areas in fields where you'd see that alkaline buildup where it's all white and crusty because there's too many
Right.
salts. That's essentially what happened is that, you could kill plant life, but it's literally just sodium. So it's not,
Didn't Mark Anthony salt the earth? You know what I mean?
I mean,
Like
that's where it comes from.
that's how England, that's how Britain lost India, was over the salt wars. So
Hmm.
salt's an amazing thing. Now let me ask you this question, because I'm invested in Plug Technology, which plans on producing 500 tons of clean hydrogen by the year 2025.
Hmm.
So are we going clean hydrogen, or are we going, I got to know, sodium ion? You know what I mean? Because what's more abundant than salt, right?
Hmm.
So,
Well, like anything, what I tell people is diversity is the key.
okay,
you know Hydrogen has a lot of great properties. The problem is that it's not very stable. Sodium is
gotcha.
very stable, but I don't know a whole lot about its ability to be a
Fair
power
enough.
generating source. So I
Right.
mean, the idea is that, you have something like a hydrogen fuel cell that can generate power, and you
Hmm.
have something like a sodium ion battery which can store power. The biggest issue that we
Ooh.
have is the ability to store power. That's in order to power cities, homes,
Hmm.
anything like that. The sun theoretically should be able to power the entire earth without any issues. We
Should be.
just need we just need number one, better storage technology in order to store that
Right.
power. And number two, we need better solar generating power. I mean, currently, right now, I believe solar sits at about 30 to 35%
Mm.
efficiency in terms of generation. I mean, I know that there have been a couple of somewhat breakthroughs because it was sitting at about 25 to 27%, but that's moving up.
I hope so. I hope they're all moving up.
And so it's just one of those things, like, it takes time for that technology to get better and better. By far, um, by far, still the most efficient generating process for power is nuclear.
Right.
And
But
it
not in a
sits
car.
Oh, Jesus, no. But if you had a sodium battery that you could power using nuclear energy,
Gotcha. Yeah, because we
and
do take
and
giant batteries and fill them and then send them off to countries that can't produce their own.
yep. And
Yeah,
so here's and so news out of China as well was is that they're getting ready to put their first thorium breeder reactor online, something
that's
that we've talked
awesome.
about frequently.
Good. Then we can see how great it is and start doing that if we're not already doing it. You know what I mean?
Like everything else, it's really about energy diversification. The
Yeah.
more sources of energy that you have on demand, generation, during peak hours, and
Hmm.
storage technology, like, it will be very easy to live on clean power. It will be. And it just requires more technology, more investment in technology, more research and development. And I would also argue that you're going to have to embrace some technologies in the interim that you don't necessarily
Well,
like nuclear.
somebody will embrace it that likes it. Other people will just have to deal with it. You know what I mean?
And that's just it, is that like these thorium breeder reactors, I mean, I'm impressed with them. And just reading on how they were
Hmm.
developed is absolutely incredible. I think that they're a fantastic addition to clean power generating sources. But I mean, everybody, when they think about nuclear, they think about Fukushima Daiichi, they think about Chernobyl, they think about 3 Mile Island.
Sure.
And it's,
But
and
those
I would
people are
argue,
dying off at a rapid pace. I mean, they're just older now. But the one thing I have an issue with, before we move on to the segue between the two, is um hydrogen is dependent on subsidies and investors, whereas this China version is reliant on a China that can invest all it wants into it, right? So
Mhm.
sodium ion is going to be in the market that produces most of our stuff. And if China's building everything for us and this is the way they want to go, whether it's the best or just their version of the best, I'm wondering if it's going to be prevalent because of that. Like hydrogen might be better, but sodium ion is going to be better marketed and funded.
Well, and I mean, it's also going to boil down to what's the most stable. It's,
Okay,
like a
I
cost
hope
benefit
so.
analysis for anything. Sodium seems to be fairly stable in this regard, but hydrogen has its issues with stability because in order to keep it, if you screw up a hydrogen fuel cell, I mean, it's yikes.
Okay.
It'll go boom. Whereas if a sodium battery blows up, it'll go boom, but it's salt water.
Gotcha.
And we just have to see. I would just have to see more about it because it's entirely possible that it could also be a salt acid, kind of like we use lead acid batteries as our
Right.
generating source. I would need to see more about what the technology looks like.
Fair enough.
I could see it being a salt acid, but I could also see it just being uh, ionized salt too. So
Okay. Well,
uh,
do you know why we need all four of these to be powering our planet right now? Firefighters are fighting to protect the giant sequoias, you
mm,
know? And there's fires all over the country. Over 3 million acres have been burned this year alone because of fires, because of climate.
mhm. It was really interesting watching how they were wrapping those trees in foil, and all I could think of was, I've wrapped my vegetables in foil and thrown them on the grill too. They come out
Right.
tasty.
Right.
Like, oh no,
That's really scary. These things live forever, right? And they grow
3,000
200 feet.
years.
They grow to up to 200 feet high, and they're at risk. They've never been at risk before, dude. Right? And now suddenly
Uh,
they're at risk. Does that tell you something about climate change? Or
I
are they
mean,
doing this every year? I don't I
no.
don't remember this story coming up often.
Well, I mean, last year I think it was 10% of the sequoias that were in California
Oh,
got wiped out from fires.
I hate that.
So, um,
I hate that.
in terms of, I mean, unfortunately, this is one of those things where you know, it's a combination of things, really. Number one, you've got the combination of the fact that these forests have had so much buildup in
Mm-hmm.
fuels over the years. And you can attribute that to a lot of different things, like the natural fire cycle being prevented because people are building in these forests and they want to keep
Right.
their property protected. You could also, blame the fact that, these places aren't getting their fuels thinned out through strategic logging and whatever have you.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's plenty of blame to go around for the mismanagement, but then you also have the factor of climate change mixed in. We finally got rain here for the first time in 90 days.
Congratulations.
Man, it was been lovely to sit down and listen to that, but holy shit, it has been dry.
I've been getting torrential rains because I have nothing but tornadoes and typhoons going towards Louisiana and leaving me in the remnants.
Well, at least you getting nice and slickery over there.
I know it's crazy. But it's part of its management, and we should have elected Larry Elder to fix this instead of Gavin Newsom, who hasn't been able to.
I
No.
think my favorite meme has been I tried to upload the results of the California recall election to Pornhub, but they don't allow elder abuse.
I think
And I was
that's
like, oh
hilarious.
shit.
That's hilarious. And he screamed voter fraud up until the point when he couldn't. I mean, he had it
Mhm.
on his website 24 hours before the election.
Yeah,
So,
we've detected fraud in the voting system, and there wasn't even any sort of count running at that point. It's like,
right.
what? Like you I mean, I know that Russia likes to call the results of the election 2 hours before the election begins, but
Yes.
damn.
Oh man, Jeffrey, you reminded me of a story that's not even in my note because I was just so upset about it. So Navalny, right? Putin's enemy, right? His
Hmm.
opponent created an app so that Russian people knew who to vote for, because Vladimir Putin runs against 100 people to split the vote so much that nobody gets a majority of the vote. So Navalny, he creates this app and tells Russians, hey, these are the people to vote for. Everybody just vote for these people, one person per 275 districts. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And and then Apple and Google, the day the elections start, take the thing offline.
Yep.
I was never so mad before in my life. Like, why would they interfere one way or another?
Well, welcome to trying to do business as a company in a foreign country. They get to decide the terms of what doing business is, and if you want to do business in Russia, you can't disseminate information that would encourage you to vote against Putin. That's the answer.
Well, there's elections going on right now, and we should pay attention to that, but we shouldn't interfere. Or should we? I mean, when does it stop? An eye for an eye, or do unto others.
Well, like we
So here,
talked about before, is that anytime that you have a president that's or any sort of leader that's going to have a long-term ruling over a country, you're going to just breed increased instability
yeah,
the moment that that person is no longer able to rule the country. Like if something suddenly happens to Putin, Russia's going to be in chaos.
as they
There will
should
be
be.
there will be fights over who will succeed Putin,
It's
and
the
it's
same
going to
thing.
look ugly.
It's the same thing as here. If you let a problem go long enough, it's going to be a major thing to try and fix it. And leaving Vladimir Putin in power unaccountable for anything is the issue.
Yep.
Once somebody becomes unaccountable to its own people, then they're corrupt. It's just the way it is. They're corruptible,
Hmm.
and then it's just their own morals and values, not the people's. So
Yeah.
he hasn't been accountable, and you need an accountable government. But that's not communism, then, is it?
No, not even
All
close.
right. How about this? This is cool. I saw this and thought of Jeffrey for some reason. Employers are being forced to make salaries public in states. The federal
Hmm.
government is considering it, but states are like, screw you, we're not waiting. We want to make this public. That revolutionizes negotiating and
Hmm.
jobs and hiring. And that is such a cool benefit. Why would the states just do that for us?
Well, at least here in Washington, it's already illegal to prohibit talking about salary. So,
Cool. Right,
like
exactly. And
if
other
your boss
states are
says
doing
you
it.
can't, if your boss says you can't talk to your other employees about salary,
Mhm.
like that's illegal. And you can straight up find yourself in a world of hurt by doing that.
That's so cool.
Um, to me, it makes a lot of sense in being able to figure out, where people are sitting at in terms of pay scale. So
Right.
you've heard all of these discussions about how, one group of people makes less than another group of people who makes less than another group of people, but there
Hmm.
hasn't been any clarity on how do you actually get around that? How do you actually find out what it looks like in order for everybody to be on a fair scale?
Right.
When you look at states, when you look at like state agencies, for example, or the federal government, for example, like you have very clear marks to hit, like in order to get like your next step, and your steps are evenly broken out, in terms of who's, you could probably do an analysis of whether or not people are getting promoted into the next step, but
Right.
it's not so willy-nilly that one person might get um $15 an hour, while the next person might get 15.50, while the next person might get 18, for all three of them doing the same job.
Right.
you know so it gives you the clarity in how people are actually paying their employees, and it gives employees the power to sit down and say, hey, look, I've been here for 5 years and I'm getting paid $15 an hour, but this person just
Yes.
started and they're getting 18. What the fuck?
Right. It creates an honesty in negotiations, because you have to say, why is this person getting paid more than me? And the
Hmm.
employer has to say, it's because you're a woman, or it's because you're disabled, or it's because you have an attitude that we don't like, or you smell funny. It has to have more honesty. Although I don't know how you can do that without then suddenly being sued for some sort of discrimination. So,
Well,
but
that's exactly what it's meant to do. Is it's meant to, make you confront whatever discriminatory policies you have in terms of
mhm,
pay.
That's so cool. Plus, we get to know what fat cats are earning, right? Now we get
Oh
to know
yeah.
what like all the management is earning. Because quite honestly, if you watch your managers, they generally don't do anything. I think they're promoted because of their ignorance and incompetence sometimes. And
Oh,
so
just
when
some of
you
the
can
places that
see,
I've worked, it's literally because they've just been there the longest. It's like
right, and
you've
they
been
make the
there the
fewest
longest.
waves, you know?
It's like you've been here the longest to know what this shit show looks like. Fuck it, you're the manager.
Right. I don't even mind that so much. Is it when they just hire the guy that isn't going to make the waves? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, but I love the idea of more employee rights. That is so cool to me.
Oh, it's a fantastic idea being able to compare yourselves. It's like, great. So let's say that there are several different employees and one person's making $18 an hour, but let's say that they've been there for 10 years while
Hmm.
somebody who's, only on their first year is making $15 an hour. It's like, yeah,
Right.
are there going to be some issues because you're doing the same job? Yeah, but then there's also the factor of I've been there longer.
Right.
Honestly, it's going to force employers to confront what paying for the job looks like, not just
Hmm.
paying for the person. And
Right.
and this is where it gets really weird and really interesting is that should a person who's been working the same job for 10 years be making more than the person who's, only been there a year?
Well, the guy that's unpromotable, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
it's hard
think
to
the
say.
metrics should be on something more, I don't know, production based, more job efficiency based, but that's me. You know what I mean?
Well, and there again, now the question is now your questions are getting more and more subjective.
Of course.
Is this person actually competent at their job if they've been there for 10 years and they're making $18 an hour
Right.
and they haven't moved up?
Right. That was my position, by the way, is well, I didn't have a college education and I smoked marijuana, which limited my capacity to enter management. So I stuck at the ground level, learning everything and just building up my pay. So, you
Yeah.
know, I worth it? Yes, because I could do anything at any time. But were other people that did the same thing worth it? I don't know. That's the thing. But don't promote me to management. I'm obviously unqualified. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, hey, I have a great one for you.
Let's
Who's
hear it.
got the biggest balls of them all, Jeffrey? Do you think it's Nicki Minaj's cousin's brother's boyfriend's fiance?
Oh boy.
I'm sorry, but the story kept coming up every day, and I was like, "All right, fine, let's talk about it. Let's," because we're the guys that said, "Hey, your penis is going to get huge if you get
I mean, we
vaccinated."
did do that.
So I think,
I guess to me, when that whole like, he got the vaccine and his testicles got super swollen. All I
right.
could think of was like that fucking show, that fucking South Park episode where Randy and all of his friends give themselves cancer so that way they could smoke weed and then are hopping around on their ball sacks. It's literally that's the only thing that came to mind, and I'm like, oh boy. And then, that's the funny part is when you have that happen, and then you have the US government go, yeah, no, we have not seen a single case of that happen. And then you
Right.
have the Trinidadian government go, yeah, no, we haven't seen a single case of that happening.
Right. And
It's like,
meanwhile,
ooh, somebody got looked to be a liar.
but meanwhile, everyone's talking about some guy's balls. Like Tucker
Guy's got the most
Carlson is trying to track down this guy's nutsack.
I mean, this dude's got the most popular set of balls on the internet right now, and it's not even
Right,
porn related.
right.
How the fuck does that happen?
And why are you only shaving the left goose egg? That's the question I have. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know. Sometimes you like to know what clear cutting the forest looks like, I guess.
Right. It's just, I don't know. I just wanted to get a COVID story in there. You know what I mean?
That's such a fucking random one.
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be random now because we all have our belief. If you're not going to get vaccinated, oh well, I guess you're going to die, and I'll mourn you at the end with everybody else. That's
I would argue that if you do get severe COVID, I hope uh, uh, you'll be. I guess some people will be lucky if they die because some of
hmm
that severe COVID. I mean, people ending up on oxygen or having their organs fail. Like I think
right.
last week We saw a story about how somebody was needing an organ transplant, but because they had COVID, they can't get the transplant because they're
Mm,
literally too sick to take the anti-rejection meds.
wow. And COVID stays in your system long hauler style sometimes. So who knows when they'll be able to get it.
Yeah, and so it's literally a
Oof,
battle of, can this person get well enough to be able to take anti-rejection meds? And if they do,
right.
are they even going to be suitable enough to take to get an organ transplant? And unfortunately, you want to talk about science, it's just something we don't know at this time. We don't
Yeah,
know
that sucks
what
to be.
getting healthy enough to get an organ transplant in the time of COVID looks like right now. There just
Wow.
hasn't been enough time and enough patience that we've had to do this with. So
You were not used to not knowing though.
no, it's these are new realms. And
Yeah.
so we don't know if 3 months after somebody's had it, 6 months, 9 months, a year, 2 years,
Hmm.
5 years.
That's a tough one.
and what if they get sick, again with COVID? Does that mean that the clock's going to have to restart?
Hmm.
Are there going to be complications in taking the anti-rejection meds, and while having had or having actively
Right.
having COVID,
Having had.
having had ed, having had ed.
Oh man. All right, we have two more stories. We're about 10 minutes away if you want to give Devi notice. Hey, Hurricane Michael hits Texas, and it makes me wonder, is God just angry with them?
I mean, you know, Texas is doing some wacky bullshit, and I don't understand
Yeah, I know.
how they're coming up with the shit that they're doing. But I don't know. Did you see that some group of parents, in order to fight the masking mandates, have decided to sue the state based on right to life?
I did not.
Yeah. So a group of parents who are pro mask mandates
Mhm.
are now suing the state, saying that they're violating right to life clauses.
Wow. I
Like,
actually had that in my
hmm,
note. Like, you're pro-life, but yet 78 babies have died in Mississippi in and out of utero because of COVID. So you
it's
nailed
an
that on the head. It is a
it's an
right to
interesting
life.
one. It is a right to life, absolutely, and it's not even just about fetuses or babies. It's
Right.
children and teenagers and young adults, old adults.
But I still want people to realize that Greg Abbott is splitting the difference. Look, so 6 week ban on abortion still leaves 6 weeks worth of abortions. So you're not making the evangelists happy by still allowing abortions, and you're eliminating 70% of your vote by saying I'm going to eliminate 85% of abortions. So I don't see where he's on a even ground with any base he has. Right? He
Yeah.
can't go to the evangelists and say I banned it totally, and he can't go to his the popular vote and say that he allows it. So I don't know. It's weird.
Well, unfortunately, Texas will probably eat that shit up and they'll love it. And I know that some companies have started moving employees out of the state that
Good.
feel like they can't. Salesforce, for example, they're a
Mm,
huge company. They have started moving people out of the state that feel like they no longer are safe in the state of Texas.
right. Mm.
But God damn it, Devi.
So the
But but
sorry.
but so but Devi just got me really good.
I love it.
But
Thank you, Devi.
so Salesforce is voluntarily moving people at their own expense out of the state of Texas in
Hmm.
order to get them, to where they feel safe. My argument to that would be is that if you feel that you have to fund um, moving people out of the state
Hmm.
in order to make them feel your employees, to me that seems like a problem in doing business in the state.
Yeah.
And that what you're saying is, yeah, sure, we'll move you, but we don't really care about the issue as much as we claim to.
Right.
So, and I know that moving a company out of the state is not an easy thing to do, but it's
Polaris did it all the way to Mexico. Uh, the air conditioner company, I can't remember them. They moved. Harley moved to Taiwan. Like So companies do it all the time when it's
Hmm.
profitable for them.
And that's just it.
Hmm.
So
Well, I have a
it's
great final point on it.
ooh, let's hear
So, do
it.
you think Nancy Pelosi should propose a bill making masturbation illegal, since it is the one form of abortion that women aren't responsible for?
Ooh, a federal ban on masturbation.
And like vigilante reward system of $10,000 if you get caught masturbating.
I don't know. I feel like right there we could I feel like we can avoid this potential ban if we beat it together.
Okay, yeah. I put it on Twitter that like Greg Abbott should be shouted at questions. How are your prostate? How's your prostate? And when was the last time you masturbated? Do you plan on masturbating soon? And when?
Have you had nightly emissions that have
Right.
taken place? If so, you should be prosecuted for that. Yeah, it's really funny how they view the idea of these kind of mandates on men's bodies as ludicrous, but
Uh-huh.
somehow it's absolutely cool and acceptable when it comes. Yeah, no, fuck you.
Yeah.
That's bullshit.
Right. No, no, no. You can have your abortion. Sorry. Sorry. Don't touch masturbation.
No touch masturbation.
Oh man.
I
So
just, yeah, wow.
yeah, it's the weirdness, it's the wildness. I did send the link to Devi. So in the meantime, I'm gonna tell everybody something pretty cool, but not really a news story. Snapchat is ready to unveil the newest deception multiplayer game from Zynga. And I think that's cool because, well, I own Snapchat, and it's like a vampire, it's like Among Us, but it's a vampire version. So get ready to sink your teeth into that and go get your Snapchat today. It's not just for hookers anymore.
No, that's no.
Although it is still
I
for
mean,
escorts.
hey, sex work is still work. So
What I was excited about was when OnlyFans decided to ban any sexual content, because I was like, oh, come over to Snapchat, people.
and then they went and completely reversed that ban.
As they should have. As they should
Well,
have.
that's just really shitty. You build your fucking platform off of the back of sex workers, and then you're like,
Uh-huh.
bye.
Right. We're gonna become the next TikTok. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, no, I got
no,
you.
it's
So
it's absolutely that was absolutely ass.
totally. So like I said, I was watching that documentary about the dot-com boom. Do you remember Netscape?
I
Like, do you
do.
remember the war between Netscape and Microsoft? Like, because I just came in on the tail end of that.
Mm-hmm. Nope, I remember it. I remember it very well. In fact, I was very much Team Netscape.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what we used for our browser for a long time.
Mm. It was
And
worth it
then
too.
and then it was gone.
Yeah, it was just gone. It was just gone. Microsoft came out with their version, Windows Explorer, I guess. I'm not a
Internet
Microsoft guy,
Explorer.
Internet Explorer, and gave it away with every update and crushed
Yep.
Netscape.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I
After watching the promo, Bill Gates was at like some convention just staring at the promo the whole time, the Netscape promo, and then came up with it. What a creepy
yeah.
little guy. What a creepy little guy.
So much so that his wife ended up divorcing him.
Yeah. Yeah. Melinda, right?
Yep.
Hey Melinda, how you doing?
Oh boy.
You need some company? You lonely? I told my friend I've had love. I've had sex. Now I'm gonna marry for money and security.
Mm, I
I'm
mean,
old.
well, hopefully that works out for you.
Ah, honestly, I've explored the asexuality realm for a while now. I kind of like it. Gives me time to think about other things.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, especially if it's not like a big priority in your life. Absolutely, by all
Right?
means. Hey,
Whatever.
whatever finds you the most happiness. That's all that matters.
Yeah, yeah, we all get to be what we want to be when we want to be it. And that's the great thing about being in America. You know who doesn't get to be who they want to be? Haitians.
Mm,
Why are we kicking them out right after they had the majorest earthquake in history there? You know?
uh, Because bad policy, like usual.
Yeah. And God damn it, Mexico, why aren't you building an infrastructure there? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
People keep coming, and you gotta put them somewhere. You gotta put them somewhere. Why not build infrastructure? And why aren't we helping to build that infrastructure? God damn it, Jeffrey.
we ain't even building our own infrastructure.
Got to build something. what did
Best
what
I can
did
give you is a drone strike on 10 people who are having a birthday party.
Well, we don't like water bottles, buddy. We don't like water bottles.
If there was ever like a tell me you're American without telling me you're American moment,
Oh
it's
my God.
yeah, we did a drone strike on 10 people that were 7 kids and 3 adults that were having a birthday party.
Yeah.
That's pretty
And I take personal responsibility for that. But however, we thought it might have been that general with that hairstyle and that dead face saying, yeah, we just killed 10 innocent people and I take responsibility. Moving on. No, you don't. You don't. You just killed 10 people.
is absolutely insane.
It's absolutely insane. Well, thank you for listening to Public Access America. We've been Jason and Jeffrey. Find us on Spotify and YouTube. Sundays, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
Yeah.
Yay, Jeffrey. All
Yeah.
right. Welcome back to another great episode from Public Access America. Shoots. We're just waiting for our guest. Now you know what I feel like when I'm waiting for my guest.
Yeah. They're grabbing their coffee and
Yeah,
stretching and
we did do
kissing,
2 minutes
kisses
early.
from the dog.
Aw,
Kisses from the bishes.
Billy. Hey, Jeffrey, how's
Yeah.
Uncle Tom?
Uncle Tom's doing all right, about as well as can be expected. So,
I hate why I
it
remember his name
is
so well.
it is what it is, unfortunately.
Okay.
Um, so I think Debbie's gonna jump in on mine, I guess.
Okay.
So I'm gonna hand over my headset to Debbie.
Okay.
It's
I love it.
my headset's better. So I'll probably jump in on my phone then and my
If you want to.
headphones. Or I can just let you two have at it.
Love it.
I do have something to say.
No, probably not anything worthwhile. All right, here you go.
All right.
Hi, Debbie.
Hello. Long
Hi.
time no see.
Thank you for being here, by the way.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me.
I didn't necessarily want to do a whole hour on this, but I have enough information that I could. So,
Yeah.
as you know, 4 brave amateur athletes testified about Larry Nasser's actions, and
Mhm.
it's been 6 years in the waiting. It's been a cover up for 16 months, and they finally got their say.
Yeah.
And I asked you to watch it because, well, you're a
Mhm.
parent. You're a
Mhm.
parent, and you
Yeah.
have this great human perspective where nobody else I know does. So I really wanted to talk to you because I didn't want it
Mhm.
to be a political conversation. So I asked you to watch, I asked you to kind of watch like their testimony, and I just wanted to
Mhm.
get your overall take on it.
Oh. Well, uh the first thing, like I knew a little bit about what was going on. I'd
Yeah.
heard about it. Didn't realize how much of a like conspiracy it was, essentially.
Right.
The cover up, the changing of information, the lack of action, it is reminiscent of the whole Epstein situation,
Mm-hmm.
um, where the FBI knew what he was doing and didn't do anything about it.
Right.
So to say that I was unsurprised, I think is unnecessary.
Right. I'm surprised about the pervasiveness of this out in the open. When you think
Mm,
about Cosby and Weinstein and Epstein and Nasser,
hmm.
these people are doing it right there out in the open.
Yeah.
And it's not political, and it's gross, but it's being covered up. And I think it's because, honestly, people don't want to talk about this. They
No.
they they hated it. They're uncomfortable with it. But if we ignore it, it gives these people the space to
Hmm.
do it. And so people told me this was a dark topic to cover. This was a heavy topic that I shouldn't
Hmm.
address.
Why is,
Pedophilia, child sexual abuse, and
ugh,
I don't want
why
to. I
don't
don't. I
why
don't
don't
like
we
it.
want to cover that? Why
Why?
don't we want to cover that? It makes you uncomfortable.
Right. So
Imagine
that's why I.
how
That's why
the
I had to.
survivors feel.
That's
Um,
look. When I saw them testify,
mhm,
I had tears in my eyes. I thought to
mhm,
myself, as difficult as that was for them, it would be so much easier for me to devote 1 hour to it. You
yeah,
know,
absolutely.
people should know about this, and they should know the warning signs, and they
Hmm.
should know that there's help on both sides. Like, the way
Right.
I feel about it is, if we want to eliminate it as early as possible, we work with the pedophile himself. Whether he's active or inactive, he needs to seek
Hmm.
help. And so
Right.
I have a note there for that. But
Hmm.
for children, I think to myself, your parents love you and they trump anything that any pedophile can say to you. You can talk to your
Hmm.
parents about anything. But then I thought to myself, what
You
about those
can't,
kids that can't?
but you can, and that's the thing, is like it's the reason that people get away with it for so long is because it's embarrassing and scary and shameful and kind
Hmm.
of, it's just horrible. Like, there's nothing that you can
But
really
the thing
say.
is
Like,
it's horrible and shameful and embarrassing for the perpetrator, not for the victim.
mhm.
And
Yeah,
we
but
have to let the victims get past that embarrassment, you know?
mm,
And
well, the reason that it's so embarrassing and feels shameful for somebody who's been abused
mhm,
is because we have this antiquated idea of what like sexuality looks like and what like a woman's value is in our society. And a lot of that value is based off of this ridiculous idea of virginity and purity and
mhm. Princess culture.
wholesomeness.
Yeah.
And once you've been abused, you lose that, and you internalize that. Like, you
Hmm.
feel as if you are no longer allowed access to the joy and the comforts of being, a happy adult, because like,
Yeah.
who would want you? Because we've made this whole virginity thing, which is a social construct. Like, it's ridiculous. So, like, the value
Right.
of having had sexual interactions with somebody, like, being the only value of women. Um,
Right. Once that's happened,
mhm,
you're second tier.
yeah. Well, and,
Yeah.
and on top of that, like, like these girls, these now women are idolized. They're like, people obsess over them and their amazing abilities and all of that stuff. Like, I even one of the, I don't remember which senator said it, but a lot of them were like starstruck and like talking about how courageous these girls are and how wonderful it is and how brave and how,
Yeah.
thank you so much for stepping forward and doing this. And they're like, we have
Right.
already done that. We're asking for accountability. I
Right.
was finding myself just filled with rage after when like senator after senator after senator was like,
Yeah.
oh, thank you so much for your courage and
Uh-huh.
coming forward. They're like, and I'm sitting there like yelling at my phone, going, "They already did that. They
Yep.
already did that. This is not
Yep.
what this is about. Like, stop, stop. You're infantilizing these people. This is not what
Yes.
their point is." And they kept
Right.
asking them the same questions. What do you want? What does accountability look like?
Mm-hmm.
Accountability. It looks like put these people in jail for not having done their jobs, for allowing multiple hundreds of people to continue to be molested. Like, I was
Right.
angry, and I feel like Cory Booker was one of the only ones that he was like, okay, I'm gonna address. Yes, thank you for your courage, but
Right.
like, we are allowing you to continue to be abused. We are creating this system. We are
Mm-hmm.
participating in this system, and how do we not participate in that anymore? And I think that him asking that question and him putting that forward was one of the more poignant moments during those, obviously. And then Miss Reisman, I'm terrible with names,
No, you got it. The gymnast.
responded. Yeah. So she responded and talked about how the abuse affects you and how PTSD from it affects you.
Physically. Yeah.
Yeah, physically. And like that was when I lost it. That's when I was like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, yeah, that's so relatable. Like as
Yeah.
somebody who's been through that and
Right.
didn't feel like you had any ground to stand on to like say anything because this person is, like uh they're on the basketball team at the college, or they have a position of power over you, and who the hell would believe you, and you internalize all this pain and suffering, and like that.
Yeah.
Cory Booker talks about how it was a systemic problem, and it's a power problem.
It's a power
It's
problem.
the bottom line is it comes down to a system of power.
Yeah.
And Miss Reisman immediately addressed how that power affects the powerless, and
Yeah.
the direct response to your systemic issue of not addressing these things and undervaluing women in general on a daily basis has created the effects. You're tired,
Yeah.
you're physically not capable of like focus and all of this
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and like these are highly focused women. They have to do these things to
Right.
continue with their basically their career. It starts out as a fun thing, and then they get pushed into hurt injuring themselves, and then of course Simone
Yeah.
Biles finally stepped forward and said, I enough is enough, I can't do it right now. Like I
Right.
am not mentally or physically in the place to be able to perform. And
But to find
like,
out that that's because of the PTSD she had been
mhm,
going through
of
because of
course,
this guy,
of
and being
course,
in the same places and without her support system,
yeah,
without her family
mhm,
there, just to shove
yes.
her in like she was a product.
Well, they
It
are.
so annoys
They're
me.
no longer people. Once you get to that level,
Right.
like they talk about amateur sports, but it's professional. They're professionals, sports
Yeah.
players,
We
and
dehumanize
eh,
them.
absolutely. And because they're women,
And
they're
yes.
made to do the pretty thing and do the cool thing and look really strong and go
Right.
America. Um, and it's just ridiculous because
Yeah.
we're we're using them up in every way, right?
We're devaluing them
Hmm.
until they learn to do it on their own. That's
Yeah.
how we're
Well,
training women.
it's you're training them like dogs.
Yeah. I was watching on a side note, somebody was Hysteria was talking about princess culture and
Mm.
how if you're not the white princess, you're untouchable if you're the white princess. But
Hmm.
as soon as Disney began to make ethnically diverse princesses, the
Yeah.
princess no longer deserved love. And I
Mm.
thought that was just so fascinating to me. Like,
Hmm.
and this is the subculture that women are learning from, right?
Yeah.
That you have to be the princess. And
Hmm.
once a man does something to you inappropriate like that, whether it's consensual or not, you're a
Hmm.
waste.
Yeah.
And that's not it. Do you think
Yeah.
these girls did anything to destigmatize that?
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
look how strong they are. I
Oh,
mean,
that
these are
so
people
strong.
already that we admire for their strength,
Yeah.
and then to stand in front of people of power and say, No, that's not enough.
Right.
That's not enough. I am still value. I am still enough. I am enough.
They
I don't."
are.
And that I think is so powerful, like you don't get to devalue me.
Right.
This does not devalue me, and I will not give in. I don't care what your system of power is. I don't care that this person has gone to prison. What about the people who allowed him to continue doing this? And
That's
that I
gross.
think is the best part, is that they're saying, no, that's not enough.
Right. That we want it to
That's not
stop.
justice.
And we want it to
Exactly.
stop immediately in the future.
Hmm. Yes.
That was the best thing to me, was that they
Yeah.
said they wanted an independent panel to look into these things that wasn't paid by the people they were looking into.
Mhm.
you know, and that made sense to me. We want
Yeah.
accountability immediately. This
Yeah.
guy affected 100 little girls past the point of being reported. For
Mhm.
16 months, he was free.
Yeah.
That's, and he's been doing it
After they
since
knew, after multiple
1996.
people had already come forward, multiple
Right.
people, that man should have been immediately arrested.
Immediately.
Immediately arrested and questioned. Like,
Yeah.
and they could have prevented it. And because it was just a bunch of silly little girls,
Right.
and
Would it have been so expensive to put an assistant with him after the allegation? You know what I
right.
mean? Like
Well,
a
in
supervisory role in some way to
the
monitor him?
well, that's part of the problem, is that in all cases in my life, when I've had a male doctor do any sort of physical, there
Mm-hmm.
has to be somebody else in the room, and it has to be a woman. And the fact that he didn't have that,
Is
that's,
gross.
well, it's criminal. Like,
Yeah.
that's another aspect that is like, this man shouldn't have been practicing medicine at all.
At the base level.
Yeah, but we trust
Right.
doctors, right? He couldn't possibly be doing anything wrong.
Right.
Um,
And in the
and
chaos of understaffing, of course, you know, it
mhm,
just happened. It isn't our fault. We'll address it.
right,
No, you're not. You're not looking
mm-mm,
to address it. You're looking to hire the FBI agent that was investigating it, right?
right,
Like that's the cover up. That's a cover up.
right.
That
Well, and
sucks.
yeah, they're looking to hire that person who lost his job,
Uh-huh.
and like, th- it's all convoluted. Now I want to know, and I think after watching that, and I have the same questions that they did. Like, why?
Why?
What was the reason that this got pushed under the rug? That I want to know why there was a conspiracy. Just like with Epstein, why was there a conspiracy? Why did they hide that? Money,
Right.
fame, fortune, somebody get paid off, somebody get offered something. Like, there
Yeah.
should there shouldn't be the ability to have things be covered up like
Uh-uh.
that. And
No.
from the FBI, the people that like we look up to as like, oh, these are the people that protect us.
Right.
Um, and the FBI director, later addressed the
I don't
same
give him credit. I don't give him
people.
credit for apologizing. I don't.
No,
No.
absolutely not. Sorry doesn't go anywhere. Like,
Right.
he wasn't the director at the time. Like, nobody
Yeah.
wants your apology. They want action. And yeah, he's doing, the right things, but like, what's going to happen to the person that like just retired,
Yeah.
got to retire? Well,
Yeah.
we can't do much after they retired. No, you can. They should be
Mm.
going to prison,
Yep.
like for conspiracy to cover up crime. Like,
Yeah.
period.
It started, the investigation started in 2015.
Hmm.
Larry Nasser started in 1996.
Yeah.
The investigation started in 2015, which was
Hmm.
Obama, but then it bled into Trump.
Right.
And now we're getting accountability under Biden. Like wait, no,
I'm
we're getting
hesitant.
in open testimony a request
Right.
for
Right. I'm hesitant to blame it on a presidency.
no,
I'm
right.
hesitant. I'm hesitant to look at it in a bipartisan way. I'm,
Good.
like, because like, you can't look at it and be like, well, it was under Obama, so it's Obama's fault. It's like,
No, I'm
no,
just trying to say it
it's,
was under
yeah,
both. It was under both. So
absolutely.
nobody's
Well,
a
and
winner there. Right.
no, and like, since 1996, I was also like, what?
Clinton,
Clinton,
Bush,
Bush. So it was
Obama.
happening
Yeah.
under multiple people, and I
Yeah.
don't think that they're the ones that are necessarily responsible. And
Right.
like, and that's the thing, is like, if you were like, well, the president should have done something. I mean,
No. No. Who's
the
responsible
value
is
of
Larry
women is
Nasser.
so, yeah,
Sorry.
exactly. And Larry
Straight.
Nasser and the FBI agents who swept it under the rug and like
Right.
changed their statements and
And changed
questioned,
her statements, changed
yeah,
the girl's statements.
and questioned whether or not it was really that bad.
Right. Because they didn't
Like,
want to put in the work. They didn't want to do the work. He wanted a new job.
no,
You know?
you want to diminish it, because like, that's literally the female experience, is
Yeah.
going to the doctor and having them be like, oh, is it really that bad? Are you sure you don't have to go
Right.
potty? Are you on your period? You
Yeah.
diminish it because like, women's pain is not valuable. The
Never has been.
value the value of the female experience with pain
Hmm.
is the the most like grossly underrated thing that I've ever experienced. Like, when I went to the
Yeah.
hospital, I've been there. I went
Mhm.
to the hospital to get my appendix removed, and they're like, "Well, are you sure it's not cramps?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Why would I be here for cramps? I'm 30
Oh,
years
yeah.
old." Like,
And you're a white privileged woman to some extent,
yeah,
outwardly appearing, right?
outwardly appearing white
So
woman,
and
woman
privileged.
appearing.
So I
Exactly.
will
So,
say, yeah, the amount of discredibility in pain when it comes to women
mhm,
is substantially lowered when it comes to your minority, your race.
absolutely.
And that's disgusting
Absolutely.
too. But
And
for all women to think that,
mhm,
yes, even the white privileged outwardly appearing woman is getting
mhm.
treated, is getting diminished too, you know?
Absolutely. Well, and it happens all the time. Like, I can't even
Hmm.
imagine like any more intersections of like race and socioeconomic status.
Right.
I was poor, and I'm queer, and I am straightforward and blunt, and like
Right.
I don't accept no, but some people do. I can't
Right.
imagine not having the strength to be like, fuck you, do this.
Yeah. That's what kills me.
I'm gonna,
You don't think she thought about it for an hour before she went in there and then you dismissed her? Like
yeah,
you don't think any woman went in and had hours of thought there?
yeah,
I'm with them at home. They're not going. They don't want to go because they're discrediting it before
yeah,
they go to the hospital. So if they're going to the
right.
hospital, believe them.
Right. Well, and that's just part of the problem is like nobody believes women when they speak.
Right.
Nobody believes them. Why do you think it took so long for people to come forward? Because they go through this. They go through this process of like, "Oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. You're so
Right.
brave." And, "Oh, can you repeat again what it is that you want because I didn't listen the first time?"
Right.
Like, fuck
Or
off.
or the FBI agent that said, "Are you sure it's as bad as you're saying it is?"
Right. Exactly.
Wow, that put a question in her head that haunted her to this day,
Oh, and it will.
right? For six, for
Like, is am I just being a complainer?
am I
Like,
overreacting?
am
Yeah,
I doing something wrong? What did I do to deserve this?
right.
Nothing. You did
And
nothing.
that's gaslight culture. And
Absolutely.
man, it's so weird. Like we get women to diminish themselves, and then when they do it, we're like, see?
Mhm. Yeah, well, we train women and gaslight women into believing that they are not worth the time it takes to say something.
Right,
And then we're like surprised Pikachu face when they don't say anything.
right. When they don't value themselves.
You're literally training people to do this. Like
Hmm.
from birth. From birth. Like
Right.
little kids in a pink dress are told, "Oh, you're so beautiful, you're so pretty," like, and what their value
Yeah.
is their beauty and their purity and their sweetness. And
Uh-huh.
we tell little kids in pants and a t-shirt, "Oh, you're so strong and fast, look at you go,"
Right.
and look, congratulations, like, watch you like do that cool thing. Whereas like you're giving
Yeah.
power to little kids in pants versus little kids in dresses. You're diminishing their value already from the very
Yeah.
instant that they're born.
You're putting them in a box that you thought because you're in a box and you want
Yeah.
people to do the same thing you did. You
Hmm.
don't want people to have a better life than
Yeah.
you know?
Because
So,
people are so convinced that like boys and girls are so different. Bullshit.
uh,
Like, I don't want people to tell me I'm pretty all the time.
no.
What is it about me that you value as a human
Hmm.
being besides my
Right.
beauty? Because as soon as I hit 30 and gain some weight and stop wearing makeup all the time,
What are you
I'm no
left
longer
with?
useful to people.
Right.
I'm no longer useful.
Or
Now
you
I
have to redesign your usefulness.
well, and you have to work even harder for it.
Yeah.
You know, I I'm it's interesting to age in a female body
Oh
because
yeah.
you're when as soon as you're not hot anymore, people don't want to go to you for things, even though
That's
you're
right.
valuable for something, right? Like, I know
Right.
I'm a barber, right? I
Hmm.
hear it all the time. "Oh, well, I kept going to that person because I thought they were hot." And I'm
Yep.
like, "What? Did
Yep.
you like your haircut?" Like,
That's
you know,
exactly it.
what the
Yeah.
hell? Like, why would you do that?
my
It doesn't
roommate's
make sense.
my roommate's daughter said her coworker that he knows was going to start working at the strip club. And he
Mhm.
was like, I got to go and see her. You want to go? And I was like, why would I want to go? I don't know her. Well, she's hot, but I need more than that. You know what I
Right.
mean? Well,
Yeah.
you've dated 24-year-olds before. You should want to go see her. No, I've dated 24-year-olds of substance for the conversation, not for their,
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
if you want to advertise yourself as just being hot, that's great. Like, good for you, girl. Get it.
right.
But
Get your money while you can. I agree
yeah,
with that. Yeah.
absolutely. But like, that's not all you're valued for.
Right. Don't do it because
Hmm.
you think you have to, because that's
Right.
the box. Do it because
Deprogram
that's
yourself. For the love
right.
of God, deprogram yourself to stop thinking that the only thing valuable about a woman is hotness. And then you wonder
Yeah.
why you call her, you're like, oh, okay, bitch, like when she doesn't want
Right.
to be around you anymore. Or you
Right. Because
like,
men have this possession complex. We think we own all that we see.
right.
And so when a
Well,
woman
that's
says
my
you don't,
girlfriend, right?
right.
No,
Or that's mine. Look at that
right.
girl across the room. I'm gonna ask her out
Hmm.
and she's gonna have to deal with that
Right,
because it's my place to do it. It's my
right.
right. It's my
It
right
doesn't,
to go and irritate that woman.
yeah, it
You know?
doesn't matter if it makes her uncomfortable.
Right.
Catcalling, right?
Right.
It's not about making a girl feel pretty.
Uh-uh. No.
It's about you intimidating somebody.
Right.
And the intimidation factor will only go away when men call each other out on it. Like, we don't
Right.
fucking do that, bro. Like, don't do that,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And it's like Cory Booker said, it's systemic. And this
Hmm.
whole thing could have been prevented if women were taught from a young age to be strong
Yes.
and to immediately step forward when something felt uncomfortable.
Yes.
Because like
Thank
they're like,
you.
well, is it really rape? Like
Yes.
if somebody didn't put their penis in me.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it
Yes.
fucking is. Is it really a sexual assault if they just touched my butt? Yeah, it
Yes.
is.
Yes.
And you should be immediately able to call somebody out on that. And
Yeah.
there should be immediate action taken.
And if you don't have the right to immediately leave that situation when you're uncomfortable, then
Hmm.
that's an issue. You know,
Absolutely.
that's trapping somebody. I always,
Yeah.
as long as we're talking about it, don't hit on women that are at work. They have to be nice to you.
Yeah,
You know what I
they're
mean?
being nice to you because they have to.
Yeah. So if we're helping men out, please don't
Hmm.
do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't hit on your barber. Don't hit on
Yeah.
your grocery store clerk. Don't hit on your bartender. Like
Right.
we like I'm not gonna say that I don't
Especially when you're
sometimes
based on
flirt with
tips,
people
right?
because I actually like them,
Right.
right? Like there's 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 been moments where I've had flirtations with people.
Hmm.
I've met a lot of people through work, but like I'm not flirting with you unless I've known you for a very long time. I'm not
Right.
flirting with you.
It's
I'm
called
not
being
flirting with
nice
you.
to get your
I'm being
tip.
polite to you.
Right.
Well, and not even for tips,
Yes.
right? Like
When a woman's
because
polite,
I'm a
it's
genuinely
flirting.
nice person, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
That's
And
weird.
it's when I'm just a nice person and you're going to take that and you're going to like sexualize it. What? Sexualizing
Yes.
my nicety?
Because
Why?
that's the
What do
only
you want me
funnel
to be
we
a
have to
bitch
put
to
it
you?
in. No, because then you won't get a tip.
Exactly.
So
And
you either have
you'll
to be
get put
sexual
on
to me.
blast. Right.
Right.
And like I hate tip culture. I hate tip culture. I wish that it didn't exist.
Me
Tips
too.
are there to like make up for the fact that you're not getting paid what you deserve, you know? And people
Tips.
are really hesitant to like pay a lot of money for a haircut, but then they'll tip like 20%, 40%, sometimes
Right.
100%. And I'm
Right.
like, depending on how nice you are and how good of a day they're having
That's
and
right.
what you did for them.
And
And
how
it's
good your
like,
boobs look.
yeah, right? No,
Hmm.
it's interestingly enough, like if working in this industry with a gender studies degree,
Right.
I have noticed like the more makeup I wear, like pre-COVID, if I wore like lipstick, I was more likely to
Uh-huh.
get tips or product sales.
Yeah.
If I wore a sports bra versus like a push-up bra, everything was different. People
Hmm.
interacted with me different. The
Yeah.
more masculine I present, the more cool people are with me and we just have like regular conversations.
Mm.
But like the fact that I had to worry about like, do I walk beside this person or behind this person or in front of this person? How likely are they to be staring at my ass? And the
Right.
answer is always yes, they are.
It's just
Like,
how long.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And like, how fast do I walk away and then turn
Mm-hmm.
around so I can like feel
Yeah.
comfortable? It's I just have to put it out of my mind. Otherwise I would like freak out every day.
Yeah.
But like the older and fatter I get, the less people are like staring at me all the time. So
it when
using that to my advantage.
when a man looks a woman up and down, he's telling her what he values in what order. So
Mhm,
if she sees you looking at her boobs first, she knows you're not serious. But if she
mhm,
catches you looking at at her eyes or her face or
yeah,
following her expressions and listening to her, then
mhm,
she knows you're a different kind of person. You know what I mean?
mhm,
And
absolutely.
tip culture was created after slavery to pay black people without paying them.
Mhm.
Like
Well, and it's used
you
still
decide
to
how
this
much this
day.
black person's service is worth. And
Yeah.
it just expanded into all cultures because white people were like, oh, we can subjugate white people,
Yeah,
women,
we
you
can
know?
we can pay them less than
Yeah,
men because it's
because
mostly
why
like
not?
female dominated. Yeah, female dominated industries tend to be more of a tip culture thing. Um,
Yeah, right.
hairstyling, waitressing, bartending,
Uh-huh.
and what I absolutely loathe is like maybe it's that women don't quote unquote have the drive or there's just so many of them, but like in my industry there's more famous men hairstylists,
Right.
so they get huge money and they're like, oh, you should charge like $1,000 for a
Uh-huh.
service and all this stuff, and it's like, be realistic, bro. Like, you're a celebrity stylist, like you charge that because you have an overinflated idea of what your value is.
Right. That's what the
Especially
market will
like
bear.
per, yeah, what does the market look like? Like, I can't charge $100 for a haircut in
Mm-mm.
Olympia, Washington.
Right.
I could maybe do that in Seattle, but
But if you
it
but
would
if you
be like
met
an elite clientele. I would have to bend over backwards for these people. I could never fuck up.
right,
Like, there is
exactly.
no room for error when you're doing that, and people will put
Right.
you on blast. But
and
it's
and
all
you
about
still have
value.
to be that you still have to be that superficial sexualized thing that they
Mhm.
want.
Yeah.
Even if you met Britney Spears, you would
Mhm.
still have to schmooze her and do a good job and be sexually appealing for her to want you to come back.
Mhm.
Maybe I suppose there's also
Yeah.
actors and actresses that feel
Mhm.
differently about that, you know.
Yeah. Well, for me, and what I've tried to cultivate in my own clientele is like removal of power structure, or like
Yes.
a reversal of that power structure. So
Okay.
like, big tough guy comes in, I'm like, sup,
Right.
I will mirror you, and
Yes.
I'm like, what you want, man? All right, cool.
Wow.
I don't allow people to make me feel bad. And if they try, they don't get to see me anymore. And
Right.
I've cultivated a clientele that like fits the power structure that I have created. Like, I have the power to be able to do this thing. I don't have to service you if I don't want to. Period.
That's right.
And and you disrespect me or my time and you'll know about it. I'm always very graceful and very kind and all that, because that's
Hmm.
what I am as a person. I care about
And
people.
you want to be you. You don't
Mhm.
want to have to be fake and have a wall up
Right.
just to make it convenient for somebody else.
Right.
Yeah.
But it just goes back to like, I'm aware of the power structures in the world. I'm aware of
Hmm.
what's going on. I am confident in my ability to navigate that, but not everybody is. And that's when
Right.
things get dangerous. That's when
Yes.
people get injured. That's when people get abused. And that's just
It-
devastating,
it's
you
hard.
know?
As a disabled person, I totally
Mm-hmm.
understand the power structures out there. You
Mm-hmm.
can have a ride, but you
Oh
have to
yeah.
go with me everywhere else. It's these little things that people
Right.
try and grab. Give me your arm. It's these
Yeah.
little power grabs. And what they do is they start with something forceful, but then
Mm-hmm.
they dial it back until it becomes acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone that wants to control you does the same thing. And
Mm-hmm.
so that initial step, when they're harsh to you, be
Mm-hmm.
aware. And when
Yeah.
it happens again, don't let it happen the third time. You know what I
Right.
mean? one
Absolutely. You have
one time
to
can be
hold boundaries.
right. And the other thing is, if somebody's worth training,
Yeah.
train them.
Yeah.
Don't get mad at them. But if somebody's not worth training, don't get mad at them. Just don't
Mm-hmm.
train them.
Well,
Like
yeah.
you said, people making you feel uncomfortable is their problem, not yours. It's their
Mm-hmm.
inability to be a human, not yours.
Mm-hmm.
I, nobody should be embarrassed about that, you know?
No,
No,
absolutely.
absolutely
Well,
not.
I think that fear plays a big part, and like I think the
Yeah,
biggest fear when you're in a situation like these girls were is that you're alone. And
right.
abusers are really good at making you feel like you're alone. Gaslighting and
Yes.
it starts out small with one little
Mm-hmm.
manipulation, and then they see whether or not they can handle that, and like
Right.
then they're like, okay, this person is, you slowly like questioning a little bit, and then you break them down a little bit, and then it just continues to happen over and over. It's like, like, no, trust me, everything is going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's narcissistic behavior, it's manipulation, it's a combination of things that like people are able to get away with it, including power, and
Yeah.
it's just
That's
fucked.
first on the list, by the way,
Yeah.
on the website I went to. And there's going to be a
Hmm.
note with all of this information, so I'm not covering it, but there is a
Hmm.
cycle, and in the cycle is
Hmm.
keeping people quiet using your power over them. And
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
that's
Well,
interesting.
yeah, I've got a the, a gaslighting list here.
Gaslighting, telling somebody it's normal.
Hmm.
Yeah, it is not
So
normal.
it's like
Can a
it's a
child ever
manipulation
consent?
tactic, right?
But can a child ever consent
Mm, I
to
mean,
sexual activity?
absolutely not.
No,
A
never,
child can't
never.
consent to sexual activity. That's
Right.
just not
And even if you
okay.
convince
They can
yourself that they
consent.
can, it's not right.
They can consent to a hug, or they can consent to a handshake. But they're not aware of the complexities, and they don't have any understanding of how that works.
Right.
And particularly because we don't talk to kids about it very much. I've talked to my kids about their bodies and sex for a very long time, so they were
Mm-hmm.
fully aware that like anything like that happened, they had to tell me,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Um,
please. Please tell your parents. If you
yeah.
need to tell somebody after that,
Hmm.
that's a different story. But tell your parents. And if you're a parent,
Yeah.
please don't go off the handle. Like just
No,
sit there
it's
and
not their
listen.
fault.
Don't
Yeah.
get no, but don't get mad at the other people. Don't make it a dramatic scene when you're
Hmm.
told. Sit
Yeah.
down and rationally process that, because the emotions are what scare a kid,
Hmm.
because they don't have the executive critical experience
Yeah.
to know how to handle every situation like you do. So
Hmm.
give them the space, make that space, you
Yeah,
know.
you can be
Thank you.
angry when they walk out the door, like you can be
Right.
angry as much as you need to, because what they're going to internalize is they're going to see that you got angry when they told you a thing that's bad,
Right.
and they won't tell you a thing anymore because they
Right.
think that you're angry at them, not at the
Yes.
situation, not at what happened. They don't have the critical thinking skills to get to that point. They're like, oh, you're just
Right.
angry at me. You're angry at me because I must have done something bad, and they'll never tell you a thing again.
Right.
Um,
The
you have to,
easiest way to do this is to just be in your child's life
yeah.
more than in those critical moments. Be there
Mm-hmm.
so that you know their routines and how they act, so when they act
Mm-hmm.
differently, you know something's different.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
just for the record, like exhibition is
Mm-hmm.
inappropriate.
Mm-mm.
Fondling, intercourse, masturbating in front of a child, these are all really just not appropriate things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obscene phone calls, texts, or
Yeah.
social conversations, those
Yeah.
are inappropriate.
Sending somebody
Um,
porn.
Right, producing, owning, or distributing porn,
Mm-hmm.
that's not appropriate. Sex of any
No.
kind is not appropriate. Sexual trafficking, sharing
Mm-hmm.
that individual is
Yeah.
not appropriate. And I just want to get a baseline to let people know, no, don't, like, because I think it's important to let pedophiles know, if you have the thought, like if you find yourself considering doing these things, before you do it and ruin a child's life for the rest
Mm-hmm.
of their life, get help and stop, because
Right.
there's a lot of people with these
Mm-hmm.
tendencies that are seeking help. They're
Mm-hmm.
non-abusive in our
Yeah.
society, you
The
know.
only issue is that it's a if you tell a therapist that you have designs on
Yeah,
thoughts about fantasies of harming
yeah,
another person in any way, they have
yeah,
to report you.
you go into a database.
And when that's not helpful in a system that this is exactly the thing that these people need. So you can't
Right.
sign somebody up on a database because they're like, I have these thoughts about, anything,
Mhm.
right? And expect them to come forward about something.
Right.
Are you kidding? Like, I recently tried out therapy for the first time, and she was like, well, not for the first time, but for the first time in a long time. And she was
Sure.
like, I just need you to know that, like, if you say that you have any like thoughts about harming anybody or yourself, I have to report
Sure.
you. And I was like, so like, if I said I'm feeling suicidal ideation or something, you're going to
Hmm.
report me for that? I
Yes.
can't talk to you about that. Like, I want to get better. I don't want to actually do that, but I want to talk to somebody about it. That's fucked up.
It
Like,
is.
it's a system that works against people who are trying to seek help without actually going forward with an action.
Yeah.
And we need to fix that in the United States. In Canada,
Hmm.
they don't have that mandatory reporting.
In Germany, they have a whole industry based on
Hmm.
collecting these people
Yeah,
before they
because
act. That's the
like,
early, that's how we get rid of it, is not by telling children to fight it, but by telling
yeah,
the people that are going to do it to
yeah.
stop, right?
Well,
And
and
a lot of
that's
like a
it's
lot
rape
of these
culture.
people, yeah,
It's
but
rape culture.
a lot of the people doing this molesting are children themselves too, you know, which
Well,
is
they don't know.
a
Right.
weird aspect. Yeah, they're just feeling their
Mhm.
sexual oats and they're finding somebody.
Mm.
It's weird
It's
to
really
grow up.
complicated and it's really uncomfortable to talk about.
Yeah,
But,
but we have to
as
set
soon
up.
as you start developing your hormones, you hit puberty,
Yeah,
you're still considered a child, but you're seeking like sexual situations in some
yeah,
cases. Like, there's an appropriate outlet for that and there's an inappropriate outlet for that. And adults are not the appropriate outlet, and
right.
children younger than you are not the appropriate outlet.
Mm-mm.
Masturbation's great. Do
Yep,
that.
do that.
Um,
Do that.
avoid it for as long as you can, like,
Yeah,
just honestly, like, there's more value to you than having sex with somebody. And
yeah.
like, you don't have to do that. You can do it, and like, you just have to be really careful. Talk to your parents. Jeez Louise. Talk
Mm-hmm.
talk to your counselor, talk to
Yes.
somebody about it. Like, good Lord. I know some people
Normalize the
can't.
conversation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we live in a world where everybody talks about sex in terms of the birds and the bees because it's so embarrassing.
Oh my God.
Um,
We live in a
every parent is
society.
like, I don't want to
Yeah,
have this conversation. We have it
right.
constantly in movies and TV shows where it's so embarrassing. Oh my God, to talk about this with your
Yes,
parents. And I'm like,
right.
why? Because you're afraid that your child is going to have an appropriate sexual outlet? Because that's what you're avoiding.
Yeah, this is the next thing up, parent. This is what's on your plate next.
Yes.
You can't judge it away. If
No.
your
And
child has
they're
these
just going to hide
tendencies,
it, and they're going to
right,
be afraid to talk about it, and
right.
they're going to get abused. For
Yes.
fuck's sake, like,
Because
talk to your children about this
somebody
stuff.
will pretend to understand them.
Hmm.
Yeah, to get
You hear it all
close
the
to them.
time. Like, girls go
Yes.
missing because they met some guy on the internet and they run away together, and
Yeah.
they get they're like 15 and this dude's like 35 or some shit. It's just
Yeah.
like, talk to your kids.
Talk to
That's
your
not
kids before
appropriate.
talk
Talk
to
to
your
your
kids
kids about
before
what
we do.
gaslighting is and what
Yes.
manipulation is, and what
Yes.
kind of person preys on a child or a
Right.
teenager. Because like, there's technically a difference between like teens and,
Adolescents,
prepubescent, right? So
preteens, right,
like, a
right.
pedophile is somebody who is into prepubescent kids, and then there's like a hebephile, which is like pubescent kids.
Okay.
Uh, so it's like basically like puberty to 18, and I think
Right.
18 is such an arbitrary number
I
because
know, I do
like,
too. Like I
like,
think to myself, that's where we call 40-year-olds.
right.
Because every 20-year-old woman I talk to says, why does every 40-year-old hit on me?
Uh-huh. It's
It's
just
like they're
gross.
finally, we've had
You
pedophilia,
finally aged in. Now I can
right?
fuck you. Ew. So
Because
you were
we've been,
sexualizing them before that.
yeah, we've been
Like,
fantasizing them before
ugh,
that. And now it's like, remember the Mary Kate and Ashley clock? Come on, you saw that girl as a little
ew.
baby. You know what I mean? Like,
God, that's gross.
it's gross,
the
but
fuck?
men are trained for sexuality. That's what
They're trained for it. They're not
that
wired for it, right? Like
right,
they are
right.
taught that they need to conquer women, and the best way to do that is to like
Yeah.
get laid. But
Yeah.
then they slut shame you if you're a girl and you're
Mm-hmm.
having lots of sex. And I'm
Yeah.
like, who do you think that you're having sex with, bro?
Right.
You want to marry a virgin? It's the Madonna horror complex, right? You want to marry a virgin, but you want to fuck a whore.
Mm-hmm. Right. You wanted
Excuse
to,
me, but
it's like the Japanese porn where it's like this girl
Mhm,
doesn't like it until all of a sudden she's super into it. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah,
That's not how it works.
yeah. And if her pussy's tight, she's not into you.
Right. Yep. I think
She's not into it.
that was like a story, I don't know, probably from the Onion, that a
Hmm.
Republican in Texas brought his wife to the hospital because her pussy was wet.
Oh no, Ben Shapiro.
Is that what it was? Yeah.
Ben Shapiro was like, well, it was when WAP came out, right? Like,
Yeah.
wet ass
Yeah.
pussy. And he's like, that's not normal. You should see a doctor. I'm like, oh, it's very
It's
normal.
very
It's very
normal. Yeah.
normal.
Yeah. Just not for
Ew.
you. But I think I've been looking for some root causes of
Hmm.
everything, and judgment is one of those things that it doesn't have anything that's causing it. It is a
Hmm.
cause that
Yeah.
we need to remove judgment, like the
Mm,
judgment fuse from our lives, and we need
yeah.
to replace that with equality and
Mm,
in our life. But we can't do that because we all need to feel superior. And
yeah.
when we don't feel superior, we find younger and younger people to seduce.
Well, it's
And so they go, wow,
inexperienced,
we're
right?
inexperienced.
It's people
Yes.
who don't have enough experience to recognize the signs.
Mm-hmm.
I've the older
Right.
I get, the less easy it is for people to gaslight me because I'm like, red flag,
Yep.
red
Immediate,
flag.
right?
And I'm
Immediate.
like, nah, you don't get to talk to me like that. And as soon as you put up a boundary with somebody who's an abuser, they will try to make you feel like garbage. They're like,
Right.
oh, well, fuck you. You're a liar. They will
Right.
project all of their bad shit onto you.
But that's the end.
And
That's like the end of it. I mean,
yeah,
it's a long process to an end, but
hmm,
once they realize they can't manipulate you, yeah, this is
they're
that
gone.
they're venting before they leave.
Yeah. And they
Right.
make it your fault.
Of course, but
They
okay.
try to. And I'm
Thank
like,
you.
okay,
Bye.
bye.
Right. The only two things that matter are that you are here
Uh-huh.
being an asshole and that you're gone and I'm happy. So
Uh-huh.
whatever goes beyond that is
Yeah.
just the drama of your life, not me.
Right. And toodaloo, motherfucker. Like,
Right.
get out of here.
Right.
But not everybody is, especially young people.
No, they're not.
They want to be validated. They want to be like, they want to feel beautiful. They want
They
to
want
feel
to get through it.
desirable. They
They
want
want to
to
just
have
get
all
through
these things.
the moment.
And the fact of the matter is, like, they don't have the skills to be able to recognize those things. So
Right.
teach your
Or tell
kids
you.
what manipulation is. Teach your kids what gaslighting is. Teach your kids
Right.
how to recognize the signs of when somebody is trying to abuse them, because it's a
Right.
grooming process. It is slow and it's tedious and but once it
Yes.
starts happening, it's so hard to get out of it because your brain can't grasp that this person that like cares about me is
Right.
abusing me. Because normally this kind of thing happens with people that you trust, and you
Yeah.
trust. It's not
90,
a stranger in the street. It's somebody that you know and you trust.
99% is
Hmm.
family member or somebody that the family knows. Yeah.
Hmm. Absolutely. It's fucked
It's
up.
yeah, but
I'm glad that,
it doesn't
yeah,
have to be.
well, and I'm glad that it's being addressed. Like, and I'm glad that I'm not glad. I'm upset that it shouldn't have gotten to that point. I'm upset that
Right.
this all of a sudden, because it's such a big blow up thing, and the FBI and
Mm-hmm.
everybody fucking screwed everything up
Yeah.
on purpose, that this is how we have to address it. Like, those systems should have been in place to protect those girls in a very like clean cut, like escalated type of way.
Period. End
immediately.
of story.
They should have been there at
Yes.
the very beginning, because we
Right.
already knew that it was a thing, but we don't
Mhm.
want to talk about it. We don't want to talk
Right.
about it because
Which leaves
like
people
how
unaware to
uncomfortable.
it. That's
Yeah.
just it. I mean, somebody that listens to this is going to be aware, but
Oh, they're gonna
the
cringe, right?
majority of the public is saying, I don't want to know the details of this. I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
know that he put his fingers in Simone Biles' vagina. They don't
Right.
want to hear that stuff. But that
Yeah.
stuff is also what
Yeah.
makes it marked in your brain to do something.
Mm-hmm.
This is now suddenly something that's going to be in a thread
Yeah.
of my discussions, because
Yeah.
if you want to know what the answer is to the world, it's
Mm-hmm.
the children are our future. And if we break them
Mm-hmm.
before they even hit puberty, what is the chances of our survival? So
Mm-hmm.
we need to protect them, and we need pedophiles to protect them as well, and say, you know what?
Yeah.
This is an abnormal thing for what's going on. You don't want to hurt a
Yeah.
child. Like,
I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to
right.
be this way. It's
But
okay to
yes,
admit that you're away and you don't want to be that way.
yes.
You're wired differently, and
Hmm.
it's morally reprehensible and disgusting,
As
but
are other
that doesn't,
things.
like, as long as you don't fucking do shit, like, just don't
Right.
do it. You're still a good person if you're not doing it. Like, you can get
Yes. You
help,
can be the
like,
hero of this story,
right.
is what I'm saying. The
Hmm.
pedophile that doesn't commit a crime can be the
Yeah.
hero of this story. And it's a shame
It's
that they're
like,
not out there more. They
hmm
don't have a space to be out there to say, look,
right.
we're not, because
Yeah.
people judge them. That
Right.
just judge.
It's
But
like
we don't.
alcoholics have like
Yes.
groups that
Thank
they can
you.
go to. You can go to Narcotics Anonymous, but we don't
Right.
have that available for this, which we focus very strongly on, like, making sure that people are okay. But I know so many people who are like, well, fucking kill them all. I'm like, yeah,
Hmm.
but like,
Yeah.
not, no,
And those are the
because,
same people that say, I believe in equality. But
right.
do you? Do you believe in
Yeah.
equality for the racist that doesn't harm another person, even though you find that morally
Mm-hmm.
reprehensible? No, you want them gone. Do you?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody, if everybody gets that, there's nobody left,
Yeah.
right? If we all get to diminish and just extinct others that we want
Yeah.
to, nobody's left.
Yeah.
Because atheists hate Catholics, Catholics hate
Right.
Protestants, Black people hate white people,
Right.
Muslims, and
It's a disorder is a disorder is a
yeah,
disorder is a disorder, and we should
right.
be able to get help for all of the things that are disorders. And
Yes.
brains are real soft and real mushy and do really strange things, and some of them we don't understand. For the
Right.
most part, we don't understand how the human body and the brain works. Like, we think we have it figured out, but we really just don't. And
Right.
we it's such an unpopular opinion, but like, those people deserve help just like everybody else. If they're like a rampant offender, like, just like anybody else, murderer or whatever, like, not
Yeah.
everybody's wired to murder, but some people are,
Right.
and like, you gotta understand that, like, people deserve empathy and compassion, and like,
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm gonna get like death threats for this, but
No.
it's like, the fact of the matter is, like, we wouldn't have people who offend if we had resources.
Right. That's what I'm saying. If you
We
help
failed that community. We failed our
yeah.
community when we allow those things to happen, because there were
Yeah.
no resources there in the first place.
If you don't help the pedophile, you have to help the victim after the fact.
Yeah. And would you rather have a bunch of victims
Right.
and no help to, like, prevent that?
Right. Then you're just covering it up.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the problem. It's
Right.
systemic, and it's systemic down to that point, because our hatred and our vitriol, we would rather have people get hurt and get revenge than we
Right.
would fix the problem at the start.
Right. Like, in the end, this
Hmm.
is all Larry Nasser's fault,
Yeah.
because he couldn't seek help. Like, he didn't
Well,
see it
in
as
the end,
abnormal.
it's our system's fault.
That too.
Our
Well,
our
secondarily.
system our system failed to provide the help that he could have
Right.
sought
Right.
to be able to not do this. But he ultimately made the decision to do it anyway. So yeah, it's his fault, but
Right.
it's also the system's fault.
And I'm sorry, Jerry Sandusky. I've been trying to figure him
Hmm.
out for 3 days now. Like, who was the other guy? And Jim Jordan and his
Yeah.
college sexual abuse coaches.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember
thank you.
that.
Yeah, it's so pervasive, and then it just goes away. And
Well, and
people
people
are
cover it
like,
up.
oh, people are
People
like,
cover
oh,
it up.
thank God it's gone away. The media isn't talking. This
Yeah.
gymnast thing was a 4-second, 5-second in between story thing before
Mhm.
they went to commercial break, you
Right.
know? And I was like, wait, what?
Mhm.
And so it
It's
needs,
just a blip because does it really matter? Because it's women. Who cares?
because
It's,
women, right?
it's just some girls that got hurt and they'll be fine. They didn't
Right.
die. Why are you so
I see
upset?
tons of them in
Rude.
magazines. There's always another one right there.
Mhm.
There's
Yeah.
always another woman to take their place, right?
Mhm. Yeah, because we haven't fixed the problem.
Right. Well, I think America would. I think they would fix the problem. I think
Yeah.
we have a hard time hyper focusing the spotlight on something where the attention is meaningful.
Right.
So, yeah, we can talk about stupid politics that we
Mhm.
can't possibly change, or we could like stare at homelessness until those 550,000 people were in homes, right?
Right.
But
Yeah,
we don't
no,
do that.
we like to it just like in our medicine, we like to address the symptom and not the
Yeah,
cause.
right. Yeah, and but we don't want to actually pay attention to it and for the
Yeah.
time it takes to
Mhm.
fix it. We just want to say, see, we saw it. Oh, now
Mhm.
I'm over there.
Yeah, put a Band-Aid on it. It's fine.
Right.
Walk it off.
It's Suicide for Prevention Month,
Mhm.
you know?
Is it? Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't ever pay attention to those things
I didn't know either until today. Isn't that a shame?
until I see it on the internet. I'm like, "Oh, huh, cool."
Right. And
Yeah.
Hispanic Heritage Month goes through
Yeah.
October 15th. You
Mhm.
couldn't even give them a month. You got to split it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're really bad. We're really bad at fixing things. We're really
Right.
good at noticing there's a problem, you
Mhm.
know? So I don't know.
Yeah.
Ah,
We're like, "Well, this has been a big problem for a long time. What are you gonna do
yeah.
about it?" I don't know.
Right. It's a Simpsons thing. I tried nothing
Yeah.
and I'm all out of options.
Right? Absolutely. Yeah.
I think the third leg to this, and you're a parent,
Mhm.
so I'll just say a parent needs to know their child above and beyond the time it takes in a crisis, right? And
Mhm.
a child needs to know that it's only uncomfortable until you get the words out. And then it's liberating.
It can be. I
It, ca-
mean,
if
in
you yeah,
general,
if you
the
have
only
the
issue
parent,
is our system um, diminishes, like these women
yeah,
experiences. It diminishes and it questions, and lawyers are very good at trying to poke holes in your story, and they will come at you
intimidate,
from
right?
every angle, and it's a very difficult process. And I'm not going to
Yeah.
diminish that. It is a very
Oh
difficult
no.
process, and you have to confront your rapist in court and see
Yes.
them in
Right.
person and relive your trauma and be re-traumatized
Mm-hmm.
over and over and over again
Until it's normalized.
until you're completely broken,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe you'll get justice. And that's, I think, what this is doing, is providing a better system to where people don't have to do that anymore.
Right.
They don't have to hear a room full of senators tell them how brave they are when that's
Yeah.
not the relevant point here. They fucking
Right.
know that. They fucking know that.
Yeah.
You don't need to relive people telling you and like being like, "Oh, I'm so proud of you," and blah blah
Yeah,
blah. Yeah,
right.
no fucking shit. Could we address the real problem, which is why we're here, which is we want systemic change. Going forward, we want to make sure that nobody else experiences what we experienced.
Right.
That's what we're trying to ask you for. Please
Right.
stop asking the same fucking questions. Please stop telling me how wonderful it is that I'm from your
Wonderful.
goddamn
Yeah.
state. God, I wanted
Right.
to strangle Ted Cruz when he
Oh,
was talking to them.
you're
I
broken. And so Ted Cruz, by the way, is
mm,
the reason that I went back in the episode and edited out everyone that didn't get an answer from the girls. Ted
mhm,
Cruz, I was like, you're gross.
mhm,
You don't deserve to be in this episode. So I got him out. And
yep,
like Stefanik or whoever she was, because
mhm,
it was the same thing. Everybody going, you're so brave. And I was like, I cut 25 minutes out of
yeah.
that episode from just politicians blowing
Watching
smoke
that
up their
made
ass.
me sick.
Right.
I was like, shut
Yes.
up. Shut up. Are you going to ask them a fucking question? This is a hearing. This is
Right.
not your time to like, be the platform guy and get good PR. Shut up.
Right. This is your time to
You have
subpoena those
something to
FBI
say?
agents and have them in the room and say what happened. You're right.
Exactly.
Like grill them
We
in front
want
of those girls.
answers.
Right. That's what they want. They don't want you to
Right.
placate them with smoke up their ass. They want
Right?
actual tangible solutions.
God, I like watching that. I was just like getting more and more frustrated. I was
Yeah.
like, shut up. If you don't have a question, say, thank
Yeah.
you for your statement. We
Right.
appreciate your bravery. Move on. Don't make it a big, long fucking thing. Like,
Right.
because you're uncomfortable having heard this, because this is your fucking fault. Like, this is
Right.
directly your fault because you haven't put any systems in place to protect young children, to
That's
protect
right.
women. The system is broken. It's been broken for a long time. I mean, you
Yeah.
have fucking Brent Kavanaugh or whatever. You literally went from that bullshit to being like, you're so brave. Shut up. Shut up.
Right.
Shut up. Like, I am so pissed about that. No, you're okay with having a fucking rapist president. You're okay with a fucking insurrection. Shut the fuck up, Ted Cruz. Like,
Yeah.
don't tell these women that they're brave. Grow a pair and fucking do something.
He even used
Oh,
his daughter. Oh, well, I was going to Cancun for my daughter. No, you weren't. You were
no.
going to Cancun to get out of a snowstorm that crippled your state. You weren't
Yeah.
doing it because your daughter asked you to go. Like,
No. You do not get to tell these women how proud you are for them being brave
no.
because you motherfucker, a piece of shit, garbage human who couldn't even stay in Texas and help your fucking constituents when they were dying in a snowstorm. You couldn't fucking man up, and I hate that term. You couldn't
Yep.
fucking
You
grow.
got it. You got it.
Ugh, I'm so angry. I can't even words right.
Well, you got to admit
you
that manning up looks different than womaning up, right? Or whatever the
oh
term would
yeah.
be. Like manning up is head first, balls deep in something you have no idea about, and you just mansplain your way out until somebody else
Absolutely.
fixes it, right?
Ugh.
Whereas a woman will be like, thought, action.
Right? Like the fact that he does not have any goddamn right to do that. You ran
Yeah.
away. You're letting
Right.
your state
Yep.
is dying from COVID because you're a piece of shit leader.
Yep.
You're not a leader. You're a figurehead. And you don't do anything to actually help protect people. You promote vitriol and hatred and division.
For donations.
Do
Yeah.
not address those women who have way more fucking gall than you'll ever have. Oh,
Exactly. And I can't wait till these women decide that they're going to run for office. You know what I mean?
Well,
That's the solution to changing the process, is to get women that aren't used to the system, like the Nancy Pelosi's and the ancient aliens that live in our Congress, to get more youth in there. You know what I mean? Katie Porter, thank you. Corey Bush.
Cory Bush.
They're awesome. Ilhan Omar, I
AOC,
love
yeah.
you. Yeah. These are the people that are they're gonna make a difference in the overall system. But finally, like I just thought about this. If
Yeah.
you're a friend of somebody that could be being abused and you have a better parent than them, it's not snitching to get advice on these things.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely. I
So
agree.
if you have a parent you can trust, like
Yeah.
that's so sad. If there's an adult but then once, like you said, then they're stuck in a process that isn't created for a solution for them.
So,
but you can stop the process. If somebody you think is being abused and you address it, like you said, that abuser will go somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're in a situation where you're getting abused and you're afraid to come forward and you don't want to go through that whole process,
Right.
like, I understand and I don't blame you.
Right.
I don't blame you. But if you're strong enough to stand up to people who are going to question you and question your experiences, please do it.
Yes.
Do
You
it.
have my support. You can reach out to me and you'll have my support.
Absolutely. Same. You're always welcome to reach out and connect and have a conversation, and I will stand up for you.
I will too. And I'll
Because I
give
am
you
not
resources.
afraid.
I'll give you resources and let you know clear borders. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes people wonder. But
Yeah.
if you're ever wondering, stop wondering, because if it makes you uncomfortable, it's not right for you. It might be right if you see somebody doing something to somebody else and you're uncomfortable, you just don't want it done to you. That doesn't mean they have the same value structure, but inappropriate is inappropriate. And like we said, a child can't consent. And I
Right.
think there might need to be a mid-range between teenager and full-grown adult. Like there might
Yeah.
be an 18 to 26 like version of
Mm-hmm.
adult adolescent that we
Mm-hmm.
should
Yeah.
consider treating better. Devi,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're breaking our children and making
Yeah.
them adults that then break children.
I know. We need to do better.
Yeah, we all need to be better. Thank you for being here. I can't
Yeah.
believe
You're welcome.
these topics that I just don't want to cover end up being like so amazing. I didn't want to cover credit,
Oh,
like how do I fix my credit? I was like, I have
yeah.
no idea. An hour later, I was like, that was a great episode. So
Yeah.
thank you for making this uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
conversation.
Yeah. I'm always
Yeah.
willing to talk about the uncomfortable things because somebody has to.
Yeah, spit them out fast, like the
Mm-hmm.
Band-Aid. If it's
Yeah.
if you're having a hard time saying it, say it fast. Get it
Yeah.
out there, and then it's
Yeah.
dealing with the cleanup like everybody else does.
Absolutely.
I love you, Debbie. Thank you.
Love you too, man. You're
Tell
welcome.
Jeffrey thank you for giving me you for a full hour or giving his
Absolutely.
space. He didn't give me you.
Absolutely.
You gave me you. He gave me the space to allow you in, and I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay,
Yay.
we're
All
done.
right. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye. That was awesome.
That was great.
I do want to have a conversation about judgment though, because it is one
Yeah.
of those things that I think we really need to get rid of. And I don't think people understand what it looks like. So
Yeah.
yeah, you're the left,
Not a
you're the
bad
left
idea.
half, you're the left brain.
I'll be that. That's fine.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Oh,
It was good to see you, man.
good to see you too. Thanks for
Yeah.
being here.
Uh-huh.
You're my hero today.